Air is a biographical sports drama slash comedy that stars Matt Damon alongside Ben Affleck, Viola Davis, Jason Bateman, Marlon Wayans, and Chris Tucker, just to name a few. It was notably directed by Affleck and written by Alex Convery in what I believe is his first writing credit, at least that's what it says on IMDb. I'm not really too sure about that. But anyway, the film tells the real life story of how Nike, or as us Brits refer to it as Nike, seemed to strike a business deal with basketball player Michael Jordan, who at the time was a rookie and was nowhere near as famous as what he is now. I'll be honest, when I first heard about this film, my first thought was, really? They're making a film about this? The Air Jordan? So yeah, when walking into this film, I didn't really have the highest expectations. Don't get me wrong, I didn't expect it to be bad, but I didn't really expect it to be good either. But you know what? I was quite surprised by this film as I found it to be really, really enjoyable. So just jumping straight into things, one thing I really liked about this film was how the story was portrayed. Despite a lot of this film being about the business side of how the shoe was created, it feels more just like a sports film, despite the fact that none of our main characters can play basketball. Hell, Matt Damon's character is incredibly out of shape. But yeah, it's very similar to a sports film in the way it's told. You know, it's a success story. You know, take the Rocky films, for example. You know, when watching them, we know that at the end he will reign victorious. Hell, the poster for Rocky IV literally spoils the entire movie by showing him win the big fight. You know, in this film, we know that Nike and Michael Jordan are going to partner up. Why do we know? Because I can literally go and buy myself a pair of Jordans right now. Or I won't because they're fairly expensive and I don't have the money. But yeah, this film is written like it's a sports movie, and that's great because it helps to encapsulate what the Air Jordan is, being a very successful sports shoe. And for a movie like this to work, you would have to write it as if you were making a film about Michael Jordan himself. In sports films, the destination isn't what should matter, as it's the journey itself that should, because, you know, it's most of the film, whereas the destination itself is just the end, and we already know how the story ends. In sports films, there's a lot of risk and there's a lot of struggle, and we do see that in this film. At the time, Nike were risking a lot in making this partnership. Despite being the largest clothing brand in the world, this wasn't always the case. Now, don't get me wrong, they were still big. However, they weren't nearly as successful as Adidas or Converse, who, funnily enough, Nike ended up buying. So yeah, it was interesting to see this giant fashion company in a time where they could not afford to take giant risks. Because of this, I was incredibly invested in the story, which is something I did not expect. I also didn't expect this film to simply be as funny as it was. Like, there were a surprising amount of jokes and even visual gags throughout, and there were, of course, many chuckles and laughs from both me and the audience. It was great. Dialogue itself is very witty and comedic. Not every joke landed, but there weren't any jokes which were flat out terrible or cringy. It also didn't go too far with them, which is great. The comedy simply complemented the film, you know. It took itself seriously when it needed to. I feel like if they overdid the comedic elements, then it would have just been a massive hindrance to the film, and it wouldn't have been as good as it was. The acting itself is also top notch. When watching this, it was easy to tell that the actors actually cared about the film and were taking it seriously. Matt Damon's performance really helps to sell the fact that his character is desperate, he's willing to take risks and willing to put hours of his own time into creating this shoe because he knows it will be successful and make the company a lot of money. Ben Affleck is also in this movie too, and he essentially plays the character Phil Knight, who is both the CEO and one of the founders of Nike. His character essentially just wants his company to succeed. Bloody hell, I can't talk. He basically just wants his company to succeed and reach new heights. However, he also acknowledges the fact that they aren't in the best position and isn't willing to risk loads of money on his basketball division. He plays the part really well and has a likeable quality about him. Even though I mentioned it before, I just want to mention it again that Affleck also directed this film as well as acted in it. He's directed other projects before, his other notable works being The Town and Argo, two really good films. So yeah, the fact that Affleck has both directed and acted in this shows that he was really passionate about this and actually gave a shit. Another key performance in the film was Viola Davis, who plays the mother of Michael Jordan. Her character was very involved, more involved than I anticipated. Whilst being a mother to Jordan, she was also very involved in the business side, which was interesting to see. Viola Davis herself was great in this and really put a lot of heart in her performance. So yeah, overall, great performances all around. Another thing I really liked about this film was the pacing. Whilst, don't get me wrong, it isn't short, however, it isn't too long. It just clocks in at about just under 2 hours, and it really does fly by. Like, I've seen many films which are shorter than this one, but feel a lot longer because the pacing is terrible. Luckily, like I've just said, the pacing of this film is really good. There's never a dull moment in this, and the story is always interesting. Looking at the negatives for this film, there are only really a few gripes and nitpicks. One gripe I have is with some of the camera movements, as there are a few scenes when characters are talking and the camera, instead of remaining static, it'll just keep moving around, and I found it to be a bit distracting. Obviously this doesn't happen all the time, and it's most likely just a me thing, as I'm sure nobody else noticed it. Another one I have is with the character of Michael Jordan himself. So this is a bit of a weird one, as I'm kind of conflicted with myself. Basically, we never see his face, we only see the back of his head. Now, I get why they did this. Ben Affleck said how he didn't want to show his face because most people know what Jordan looks like and would have seen him in this film as a knockoff, partnered with the fact that they use real life footage of Jordan, so it would have contrasted with the actor in the film. The reason I am conflicted about this is because when he is in a scene, there is somebody talking to him. It feels like they aren't really talking to anyone, they're just talking to a brick wall. Couple that with the fact he doesn't really have any real dialogue. Scenes can feel very, very weird when he's on screen, although, yeah, I get it, it was a director's edition. However, I'm just not really sure about it. I get why, but I just think it could have been executed a lot better. However, in summary, Air is a really good film which I recommend you see if you have the chance. It's both an interesting and fun watch, even if you don't really care so much about basketball. If you like this video and want to see more reviews and film related topics, then please like the video and subscribe, as it would really help out. Anyway, that's all about there is, so goodbye.